Here we argue that we are the last generation of humans on Earth, and therefore we don't have too long to go. Personally, I doubt we'll ever get past the 21st century. Okay, that's my take on that. I can't give you a date. All I'm saying is that when the global economy collapses, it's not an if, it's a when, it's the end of man. Okay? It's going to be the collapse of the economy that's going to kill us. No asteroid, no diseases, no climate change, none of that nonsense. The global economy will collapse when it does, not if, but when. It's the end of man. And that's a long story. Not going to cover that today, but you can ask if you're interested. Anyways, a bit of news here came out. And it says divers in Taiwan film rare encounter with giant what? Doomsday fish believed to be a harbinger of earthquakes. Um, I don't know if it's a harbinger of earthquakes. I would say more or less that it's a harbinger that we're the last humans on Earth. If there's a doomsday fish, someone prepared out there, it's got to do with us. Okay, we're the last humans on Earth. So I don't know about doomsday fish, but it's a good icon, pet. What is it? Put on the milk cartons, saying that we're the last humans on Earth. Anyways, here's another group, and they say that they're looking for extraterrestrial intelligence. I guess they can't find it in Cambridge or in Harvard, and that's why they're looking outside of the Earth. But the issue here is that these people say we have to watch out for what we stare out there because we might find what we ain't looking for. In fact, if the other folk discover that we're spying on them, and it turns out that they didn't give us any permission to spy on them, then in that case, they might get angry and colonize us and treat us like Columbus treated the Indians. And here's a bit of news. It says, first contact with aliens could easily end in genocide, scholars warn. And they say this is probably the year of the alien contact. And the reason they say that is that there's some news lately on UFOs, unidentified flying objects, right? President Biden gave orders to shoot down 3 UFOs, leaked footage from a Navy pilot of a UFO that came out in the news recently. Whistleblowers report on U.S. government cover-up about UFO research. And a lot of people claim that the United States agencies, some of them out there, have collected clandestinely some UFOs or parts or whatever. And so you constantly see this in the news lately. The question is if there's some politics behind it, you know. Anyways, what do these people say? Well, by the way, this comes from the SETI research in Berkeley. Okay, SETI means Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and investigators they say, are virtually mainly people from science, technology, engineering, and math. And there's few people from the social sciences. And they say if ever you have the extraterrestrials come over here. The question is whether you want to meet them with, military brass or whether you want to meet them with some people with more social skills, we could say, or humanities. Anyway, it says if humans are perceived as disrespectful, ET contact could more likely lead to their colonization of us. And I think they're thinking something along the lines of Columbus. There you see on the right hand side, the ETs coming to visit us backward folk, right? We're trying to buy them with some beads or whatever. And then there's an example there where the Royal Society told James Cook, to avoid colonization and, hurting the natives, that kind of thing. Royal Society being the scientific branch, right? But there were private investors who had other ideas and who funded the trip, and they suggested that maybe, just maybe, they could conquer some of the land out there. So the point is, who do you want to represent Earth? Would you want military, business people who are the ones who are running, a lot of this extraterrestrial rockets and so on? Or do you want people like, from the humanities, people that have more social skills, doing or entering at least the business and being invited so that they can counsel from another point of view, right? And the issue here is that I don't know what all these people are up to, but it's never going to happen. We're never going to see an alien, an ET, right, from outside the Earth here on Earth. It can't happen. One, because we're going extinct, but besides that, it's impossible for life, for anything living, to travel interstellarly. Okay, so that's the argument we have here, and I've talked about that in the past. Okay, one fellow the phone says, you once replied to the assumption that vaccines cause autism, saying that those espousing this are plain politics. The idea that autism is due to lack of genetic diversity, how is this not also plain politics? Well, I justified my stuff, and I don't think it's got anything to do with politics. Okay, here you see Calhoun's mice, and he built an enclosure and fed these mice everything they wanted. He started out with 4 couples, ended up with all those mice that you see there. 2,200, I think, was the highest number. And towards the end, he created, or mice were born that were autistic, and some of them were homosexual. I say that Calhoun created homosexuality in the lab, one of the first ones, if not the first one, and with animals. So these are things you got to look at, and this is not plain politics. Here you have his results, more or less. Started out with 4 couples. Mice went up to, what was it, about 2,200, I think, or 2,000 thereabouts. And then the colony went down. They stopped reproducing. A lot of them lost interest in sex. They stopped having relations with the females. The females became aggressive. Okay, and a lot of the mice that were born with mental problems. And so sounds like, the society we live in today. And that's more or less what Calhoun was saying about this whole thing, right? So, that's not politics. What it is I'm giving you some facts. You take them for what you want. But all I can tell you is that experiment reflects humanity quite well, in the sense that we moved to the cities. Cities are ultra crowded, and majority of the people have moved to the cities and are in the process of moving still further into the cities in every country of the world. When they get there, they stop having kids. They go nuts. They can't find jobs. They're excited, right? Women are becoming more masculine. Men are becoming more feminine, etc. So there's a lot going on that, at least for the purposes of population, it's a negative trend. All those are negative trends. Okay? And so that's essentially, what we refer to here, what we're talking about here. Someone says here, says, loss of genetic diversity is due to mixed relationships among races. That's a catastrophe for humanity. Okay. What can I tell you? Maybe one of the questions this fellow should ask himself, and anyone who thinks like him, is, have people who are white marrying white, yellow marrying yellow, black marrying black, do they have problems even though they've never mixed with any other races? Don't they have autism and genetic diversity problems and all this other stuff? I mean, to say that this was caused by mixture of races sounds very political and very little scientific. Okay, Yeah, you can hold any opinion you want. The issue is justifying it. Okay, one fellow says that on August 25, the EU shuts down the internet. No joke, internet doomsday is coming. Digital Service Act, all opinions, all channels, and sites that don't conform to the mainstream are censored or have to be deleted. Free opinions no longer exist. Okay, thank God they give us a month to get to reach there. Okay, what does this fellow say? He said, well, I looked it up, Digital Markets Act, and it says the new rules will also help protect users from harmful and illegal content. Aha, and this comes from the European Parliament, by the way, okay? So yeah, they are protecting you, okay? They will significantly improve the removal of illegal content, okay? So you got to watch out what kind of content you put up there. Especially, it says, it will also help tackle harmful content, which like political or health-related disinformation. Political or health-related disinformation. Sounds like that fella I had the other day, right? David, whatever his last name was. Doesn't have to be illegal and introduce better rules for the protection of freedom of speech. So no, these folks are protecting your freedom of speech. That's what they're doing, can't you see? And so they don't want you to disinform the public on political or health-related issues. Okay? So anything else you can talk about? Why don't you talk about Hollywood and the girls out there, how great they look? You know, talk about stuff like that, important stuff. Don't talk about politics and don't talk about, health issues, especially about COVID. None of that. Don't touch it. I found out the hard way. You know, they gave me not a strike, but they gave me a warning. I had no clue whatsoever. Okay, finally, the fellow says, with the Oppenheimer movie coming out, can you explain nuclear weapons and what we are told radiation is? Why are Nagasaki and Hiroshima habitable? Well, all I can tell you is my take on this is I agree with the establishment of quantum mechanics as far as, the chain reaction. Okay, you have the explosion essentially of the uranium atom. And uranium has, 92 protons and electrons supposedly, right? And 235, 238 neutrons. And think of it as 92, at least 92 or more hydrogen atoms stuffed together, crunched together, in a relatively small space. Obviously, it's the biggest atom. And you're going to break that apart. And so that triggers a chain reaction where it breaks other atoms apart and other atoms apart. And it's a quick thing that happens there. And that part I have no problem with. I have a problem with the part on the bottom with the so-called radiation. Okay. They simulate it with waves. And what are waves? Vectors. So you have all these moving vectors. What's a vector? Magnitude and direction. Officially, right? I say it's got no direction, but that's irrelevant for this discussion. What you're seeing there, that thing that's moving across, all those so-called waves, transverse waves, what you're looking at is numbers. That's what's moving. And so there's no such thing as a wave, especially a wave of numbers. Okay, so that's where they fail, and they call that radiation, movement of numbers. And then the other one is particles is way at the bottom there, the red ones, right? And those are not really particles, not in quantum. The quantum particle is a number also. It's not the corpuscle, the classical corpuscle. So what you're staring at there is a one-way flow of vectors, numbers, and particles, which are also numbers, values. They're talking about energy bundles. They call them wave packets or energy packets. Right? And what is energy? A number. So the problem is they don't have a physical interpretation. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that today as well. So the difference there is that radiation, according to us, is the torsion of physical objects that look like a rope. Okay, so it's a pair of twine threads. They twirl in situ, and that torsion goes in both directions. So we have a different version of what radiation is. And as far as Nagasaki, the two cities there in Japan, why is it habitable? Well, here, let me show you something. These are some of the explosions we had on Earth. We had a few more, obviously, but the first one was in 1945, and that was Alamogordo in New Mexico there. And if you go by there, like I have, I've gone through there, in fact, more than once, and I don't think I have any radiation. I think I'm okay, right? And certainly don't have cancer, not yet at least. 1979, we had 3 Mile Island disaster in, what was it, Pennsylvania. 1986, Chernobyl in Ukraine. And 2011, Fukushima in Japan. And these were close to small towns, and people were evacuated immediately after that, after the explosions or the accidents, right? And what happened after that? A lot of people came back. Many have settled back close to, where the accident took place, and it didn't do anything to them. They measure the radiation. I mean, radiation doesn't last forever. This notion that people have that once the bomb falls, the radiation lasts forever. No, it dissipates eventually, it dies down. And so you can go and live back there again. There's no reason to think that, once there's an accident or a bomb is deliberately thrown, that you can no longer ever again live there. Some people have moved back to Fukushima and to Chernobyl. They say that they, sent people to some other cities or some other city nearby. But, I have doubts about that in great measure because they mention a city that has 25,000, 26,000 inhabitants, and Chernobyl had 48, 49, almost 50, twice as much. And so I think some people live close to Chernobyl again. I just don't know, but I would think that it's not a ghost town completely. But for sure, 3 Mile Island, nobody, left the country because of that. And same with Fukushima there. These are accidents that happen, and the radiation eventually dies down. So there's no reason not to live there. Okay, I think we should worry more about some politicians out there deciding to throw the bomb again. Now that's something you should worry about. If things come to a point where conventional weaponry doesn't do the trick, they might decide to press those red buttons, and it's more than just a threat. It could be a reality. And when that happens, which would be if it happens, in that case it's an if, because it doesn't mean we will throw those bombs, right? But if that ever happens, it's because the global economy is in big trouble. So it's triggered by the global economy, competition among countries, etc. So it's part of the theory that I have. In other words, I'm saying the global economy is going to cause the extinction of man, but that doesn't rule out that at the last moment people start pressing those red buttons.